Here's what you may not have heard about building a legacy. Sometimes it doesn't look like building at all. Sometimes it's like sitting at your desk with a to-do list that's a mile long, or a calendar that just won't stop, or a brain that's just completely checked out because there's just too much in it. That's where I've been this week. I've struggled. So I'm recording this on a Thursday and it's going to publish on Friday. I waited to the very last minute because this week has just been a constant. It's just been constant stress and pull from one thing to the other, from business to friendships to relationships to, just all kind of things happening, and building the business side, working on the business side, managing staff, helping clients, doing the legal work. There's a lot going on this week. So I've waited till the absolute last minute to record this because I just could not think through, what am I going to talk about today? What am I going to do or say in this podcast to you all today as we're talking about legacy and building legacy? And so what I decided on was this. Sometimes it just doesn't look like building at all. Sometimes it's just sitting. Sometimes it's just taking a breath. Welcome to Legacy Her Way. This is the podcast where we explore how women define and build legacy on their own terms. I'm your host, Tanya Hendricks, and legacy isn't just about what we leave behind someday. It's the choices we're making right now, who we're building for, what we're building and preserving, and how we create peace of mind or harmony along the way. And so sometimes that legacy is the choices we're making. And sometimes the choice is not to build. Sometimes the choice is just sit. And sometimes, like I had last week, my body was like, you're stopping. So last week, as I'm recording this last week, and still probably hear the congestion in my voice, I was sick last week. I never go to bed early, and I always wake up very early in the morning. But last week, man, I got home in the evenings and I was drained. I couldn't stay up late. I was in bed by 7:30 or 8 every evening. One morning I was in bed until 5. I usually get up at 4 every morning, y'all. And one morning I was in bed until 5:30, and my husband was like, what the heck is going on? And I just was sick, and my body was saying, you've got to rest, you've got to stop. And so I was able to get some extra sleep last week, but the mind didn't stop. I was still, so much happened in the business over the last week that my brain has just not stopped. And so what I've had to do in the last 2 weeks is try to get rest. And so one of the things I did is I just didn't work out last week. I started on this health journey back in December if you go back and listen to some episodes, I talked about how in my 50th year, which I turned 50 in December of 25, my 50th year is going to be about health and wellness. And I have been kind of focused on that and trying to do that and been working out regularly. But last week I was like, I can't. I'm so sleepy. I needed sleep more than I needed to work out. And something has to give at some point. And so that was the thing that I had to let go of last week in order for me to get some extra sleep and try to get all the things for the business accomplished that I needed to do. So I just had to sit on that. I couldn't do that, unfortunately. And I'm back at it this week. But not still at 100%, because I'm still a little, I don't know if it's just allergies or what, but I know it was more than allergies last week. But we are, as a business owner, and I've said this before, law firm owners are business owners. A lot of people, I've had people go, you're not a business owner, but yeah, I am. I'm a business owner. I'm running a business. We celebrate the grind, like nose to the ground, getting the work done, just pounding harder and harder to get everything done. And that is a lot of pressure. It's a lot. When you're a business owner, there's a lot going on. You have employees. You got to make sure not only you got enough business coming in the door that helps you, but it's still going to be enough to pay your employees because they're relying on your paycheck. They're relying on you to pay them so they can put food on the table for their families. So that's a lot of pressure. And the pressure is making sure that I'm doing all the things to get business in the door. The pressure is making sure I do all the work, making sure I'm producing a quality product, making sure I'm really connecting. And above all, remember that these are people. These are families who are coming in my door. They're not just a number. And making sure that I keep that at the forefront. That, as Brene Brown said in her book, Dare to Lead, she was referencing a time where she was doing a speaking engagement, and she just kept repeating, people, people, people. And that's the business I'm in, is people and helping families. As an estate planning attorney, I can be the one that helps families have that peace of mind so that when something happens, not if, when something happens, they have the documents in place that they can fall back on and at least take that little bit of stress off of them, that little bit of worry off of them. And so that's something I have to keep in mind. With all the other pressures, I have to remember people, people, people. And these are humans, these are families that God has entrusted in my hands. And I don't take that lightly. I was having my prayer time a few days ago, and oftentimes, especially on Monday mornings, the beginning of the week, I'll have prayer time here in the office. Just when it's quiet, I'll sit either walking through the office, or I'll sit in the front lobby and just have prayer, and just overwhelmed by the responsibility that God has given me by placing these people who come to my office, put their lives in my hands. It's an awesome responsibility that He's provided and given to me. So I don't take that lightly. And I had to remember that they are the reason I'm here. They're the reason I'm doing what I'm doing. But it's hard. There's just a lot going on. So we see oftentimes on social media all the wins people have. This is the new car I got. This is the vacation I'm taking. This is whatever it may be. Or the big numbers. I'm not a personal injury lawyer, but so I don't post numbers like we got this type of settlement. So that's not me. But you see the wins that people have. You see the launches. You see the milestones, but you don't see the daily grind. You don't see me at 5 o'clock in the morning sitting at my computer preparing something for a client or looking through analytics. You have to stay on top of data when you're a business owner. And so all weekend, this past weekend, instead of doing client work, I had to shift gears and look at data, look at some analytics. So I was pulling reports and uploading them to Chat and Claude and figuring out the different things with the business that's going on. That's one of the things you have to do as a business owner. You have to set some of the things aside, look at the data, and see what's happening in your business. And so you don't see that part. You don't see me on like Saturday. I spent my Saturday, I think I took like an hour, maybe 2 hours, and spent time with Ron going to Ditto Landing and then going to the flea market. But then I was just sitting in my office in my house in front of my computer, watching and learning some different things about marketing, advertising, and then putting it all together, pulling reports, looking, figuring all things out. And so that you don't see those things when you look at social media. I don't post those things on social media, and a lot of people don't. But that's the reality of being a business owner. Sometimes in order to build the legacy, in order to grow, sometimes you have to put some other things aside. But there has to be, as I mentioned many times on this podcast this season, is you have to find the harmony. There'll be some days that I am going to spend all day with family. I'm going to do all the things with my husband and just take the day off from work. And there's some days that it's grinding all day, getting stuff done. And when you have those days, that's when the exhaustion really kicks in, because you've just been grinding and grinding and grinding. But legacy is not built on a straight line. It's built in seasons. Some seasons are full and heavy and hard. but you're still in it. You still have to keep grinding. If you believe in what you're doing, if you know that this is what you're supposed to do, don't give up. Don't quit. Keep grinding, even when it's hard, even when it's heavy. This episode of Legacy Her Way is sponsored by Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer, helping you protect your family and what you're building and preserve the legacy you are creating. Your family and your life's work deserves more than hope. It deserves a plan. Contact Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer today to make your plan. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. The last few weeks has just been hard and heavy, learning new things, implementing new things to try to fix things. I mean, you have to, as a business owner, one of the things I am very sure about or careful about doing is pivoting. If something's not working, pivot. Don't waste time. Pivot. If it's not working, pivot. If it is working, stay. Don't do anything. Don't change anything up. But that's kind of where I've been the last few weeks, is figuring out some things, figuring out the data, the analytics, the trends, what's happening. And so it's just been a season of hard with my business. And that's why even coming on here and talking about having struggling at all is difficult because it is the business. It is vulnerable. And I've always been the type that, nothing's wrong. I always have the facade, nothing's wrong. But this is a hard season. And I think every business owner goes through a hard season. You just have to push through. Does that sound familiar to y'all? I mean, can you relate to going through a hard season as you're building something? And it may not be a business. Maybe you've been working for an agency. We're in Huntsville. We have, some wonderful government agencies, NASA, anybody at Restaurant Arsenal, you got Missile Defense. I mean, all kind of different contractors. Maybe you've been working for one of those agencies for a long time and it's a hard season for you because you're having to struggle with management and expectations. And then you got family. And so there are a lot of things that could make it hard at this point. So we can all, I think, relate to having some difficult seasons in life. So here's what I had to give myself permission to do. I've already kind of talked about it. Like last week, I had to just stop. I had to sleep. That was, my body was making me do that. But I did have to stop. I did have to make some decisions about, okay, I'm not going to do these things and I skipped out on some networking events last week too, because I just couldn't. I couldn't go to another thing. I couldn't do another thing. Because I also knew there were some things this week that I couldn't say no to. And so I had to give myself permission to say no to some things last week. So I had to give myself permission to do less instead of trying to do everything. And one of the things I'm working on right now and trying to figure out is what are the fewer things I can do so I can do those fewer things better and not try to be stretched in so many different directions and not be able to produce a quality product, whatever that may be, because I'm stretched so many different directions. And one of the things is with this podcast. I love doing this podcast, but it's hard. And it's me doing it. I've got a sound editor who's been great. He comes in and he just kind of fixes some things for the sound and audio. But everything else is me, and it's a lot. It's a lot. And so I want to have a better quality podcast for you because I have so many wonderful guests. They are incredible women, and I want to do them justice by this podcast. And so that's one of the things I'm looking at. How can I get some help with this podcast so that it can become a better quality product and it's not just me trying to do everything mixed in with my business and my legal practice, doing the legal stuff and helping clients. So there's just a lot. And I'm giving myself permission not to have it all together. Some people think that I have it all together. I don't. I have so many balls up in the air that sometimes they drop. And it's unfortunate. And I try to make sure the primary balls stay in the air, but sometimes those drop as well. So I have to give myself permission to realize I don't have it all together. And like I'm telling y'all, I don't have it all together. I have to give myself permission to actually schedule margin in my life. I haven't done that yet, but I've got to do it. I've got to figure out how I can schedule margin in my life so that it's literally on my calendar. This is the time off. This is the time that you do not violate this block of time. That's your time to just rest and relax. And it may be that's not possible in this current season, but maybe I'll move into another season soon where I can put that margin in my life. And one thing I've got to realize, and maybe you do too, is giving yourself permission isn't weakness. It's what makes this long game possible. And building a business is a long game. Building a family is a long game. Working in one industry for your entire career or working one job, that's a long game. So give yourself permission to find margin. You can't, and I can't let legacy burn yourself out trying to create it. I think I mentioned on a podcast earlier this season, I can't sacrifice my marriage on the altar of this business. And it's the same with legacy. You can't sacrifice the very people and things that you are building your legacy for. You can't sacrifice that on the altar of whatever you're doing to build that legacy. So here's what I want to leave you with. Even in a season where you feel like you're not building. In fact, I'm in a season where I feel like I've built and built and built, and all of a sudden the foundation, or maybe like a Jenga puzzle, like somebody's pulling out some of those blocks, and it feels like it's maybe about to tumble. So even that type of season I'm in right now, I've done, and I know you've done, the quiet, the unglamorous work of protecting what you have. And just know it's a process, so it's still working. Keep to the process. Be willing to pivot when you need to. I mean, understand that there are times that what you're doing isn't working. And realize that, okay, this isn't working, so let's pivot. That's not what I'm saying. Stick to your plan, stick to your process, make changes where you need to. Because if you just stick to the process, and I keep thinking, when I say process, I keep thinking of Nick Saban and football. And everyone I've always heard talk about Saban and his football teams is there's a process. And I've heard players talk about and coaches talk about this, like when they go in with a game plan. No matter what happens in that game, they stick to the plan. Now, there are going to be different plays that they call, and they may change this play to that play, and they have to, because when offense is lining up against the defense, they may have to change their play and their tactic because of the way people are lined up. But they have a plan going in, and they stick to the plan, and they trust the plan. That's what we have to do with our businesses and our legacy. We have to have the plan. The tactics, the strategy may change a little bit based on what's happening. But the plan, just stay true to the plan. Trust the plan. Trust the process. And just don't give up. So legacy isn't just about the big vision. It's about the people that's part of it. It's about the reasons why you're building it, and just understanding that sometimes it's going to be hard. There's going to be seasons where it's going to be hard. So I want to come back to where I started. I came into this episode really with nothing to talk about. I didn't know what I was going to say, and that was probably the point. I hope I haven't just rambled to you, haven't just rambled. But sometimes the most powerful thing that you can do for your legacy and for yourself is just to tell the truth about where you are. If you're in that season, just be honest about it. Talk to your friends, talk to your spouse, talk to someone that you trust about, this is just a hard time. I need a break, or I need a breath, or I need some help with this, or I need your guidance, or I just need somebody. Let's just go for a walk, or let's just have a glass of wine together or a cup of coffee together. I just need somebody to listen. Be honest about that, about where you're at. And give yourself a little bit of grace. I've had to give myself a whole lot of grace over the last few weeks. But give yourself a little bit of grace. You're still building. You're still grinding. Even on those hard days, you're still showing up for your family. You're still showing up for your business. You're still showing up for your clients and employees. So give yourself some grace and understand there's going to be hard days, but you got this. You got it. Just keep grinding, keep moving, get some rest, but just don't give up. Thank you for listening to this episode of Legacy Her Way. If this episode spoke to you, be sure to subscribe to Legacy Her Way so you never miss an episode. We need you to subscribe so other people can find this podcast. And you can also share it for other people to find it and hear about it and subscribe to it. All right. Thank you so very much for joining me, and I will see you in the next conversation.